recording and walk through some things. Before we start rolling, I'm going to open up the chat area, or if folks want to open up their microphones, and let me just hear what questions or concerns you have about this topic. And I'll make sure that try to pay attention to those so we can cover those here this afternoon. So if you want to use the chat box or open up a mic and throw out a question, we'll get rolling. Anything that you specifically want to make sure you learn today?
Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Oh, good. I had to restart my computer because my microphone wasn't working. I mainly have a question about the project, the first draft of the mini APA paper.
Okay.
And then also, I guess the history and theory. The history and theory? I don't know. I could be looking at the wrong thing. So is it the APA paper, and then, yeah, a history of helping counseling theories. I was reading a little bit about that, and I was reading it on my phone last night, and I just kind of panicked about it because I thought maybe I had fallen behind. But
oh, okay. So yeah, we'll open up here to Blackboard and we'll look at where everything's at, and we can get grounded on when this assignment's due and when your next modules are due, because I think you're referring to module 3, which is coming up next week. Okay. Well, super. Other questions or things that people want to make sure that we cover here? Then I'm going to get rolling, and then you can jump in, and we'll have some time as we go forward also to ask more questions. So I am going to go into Blackboard here in a moment and show you where things are for this specific assignment, and we'll get grounded of when this one is due for our class. So I'm going to show you in Blackboard where the project folder is, and I want to highlight some specific tools that are inside there that I think that will be helpful for you. So let's switch, and I'm going to share my screen. So we'll go into the Infinity screen here, and then we'll go over into Blackboard. All right, so there's our announcements coming up in coursework. Scrolling down, we just finished up Module 2. Now, inside Module 2, you did work on your study sheet and had some answers and things that you would have researched from our course pack already on APA. So that's going to be one of your tools. We have Module 3 is due next week. So that one has a study sheet. Again, it's a study sheet that you don't submit. You use it for your notes and then do the checklist. We also have inside that module, we'll open it just a moment there, as a walkthrough video. It includes this blog that you start experimenting with working on. So the blog, again, is you'll be reporting to me on the checklist how the blog worked for you, but the steps of what you're trying to do in the blog are right there. And we look at an interesting story related to some history of human services and some of the practices that we no longer do, but it's been in our recent past. Going back then to coursework, it is after next week, so after Module 3, that you'll be working on this first draft. There's another engagement event, this one that's fully online. It will close next week. And then this project, which is the first draft of the mini APA paper. And I use the word template a lot for this, because that's really what it is. It's not a research paper, but it's a template for setting up assignments using the APA formatting. Here's some of the place that you can refer back to understanding this assignment, and I'm going to go in more depth in a later slide on some of those key points. So you scroll down, right here are files. There's two forms of the directions, but there's also a sample. So you can see an actual sample of this completed assignment, which will be a good reference for you. This link here opens up a folder of some very useful tools. There's a whole paper where you can see someone who's set up a paper using APA formatting. There's a link here, we'll come back to this, that's an online resource. I use this regularly to confirm how to use APA format. And then these two very short videos will walk you through how to set and format. This one shows you if you're using Microsoft Word, or this one is if you're using Google Docs. And it shows you how to create margins and spacing and set up things like a running header. So in 4 minutes you can save, or it's a little bit over 4 minutes, you can save yourself a lot of time. So I highly recommend those videos. They're on YouTube. You can start and stop them and watch them as many times as you need to for mastering the formatting. This link here is an online reference. It's through Purdue University, and it has a lot of sponsors. It has a long table of contents here on the left that I use regularly for checking in or checking back about APA formatting. APA is a set of guidelines that we use. Human Services is one of the social sciences that uses APA as our formatting guidelines. It's the format that you'll probably, if you go on to take more psychology classes, if you go on to take social work classes, and for all your future human services classes. You may use something like MLA for your humanities or sometimes your English classes. They're both guidelines and they both have a lot of similarities. They both have ways that we make sure that we don't commit plagiarism and we give credit back for our sources. It's also an important skill for us as professionals to get comfortable with following someone else's guidelines and knowing how to store certain things in our memory, and for other things just checking back with the manual. So along here it will give us places to know how to set up for in text, which is inside the paragraphs and sentences where you give credit back, and then for the reference list, which is the part at the end. You'll have places inside your text that you give credit back. You give you tell who you got your ideas from. And we'll go inside here. So if we got a source where there were two authors, we may do it like this or this inside our text. There's a work if it was by 3 authors. And then something that comes up often for us if there's no author. So there's another place that you can understand how to set that up. In text. Then you would make sure you would also at the end have a reference list. And you would have the complete listing of information. That's how you'd set it up if there's one author. If there's 2 authors, then we can scroll on down and find out how you will set it up if there is an unknown author. So a very handy tool when you're setting up to use the format for giving credit back. All right. So going back wanted to make sure you knew those were in our assignment. This is our first draft right here. And it's that folder. You're going to save your document and post it right here. Okay, so coming back to our file. And you should now screen shifting. And we're going to dive in a little bit more of what we're doing in this assignment. This is a template. It is going to be just 3 pages. So you're not picking any topic and you're not doing any research. You're just practicing how to set it up. This is also your first draft. There's going to be a time later in this class you'll do your final draft. I'm asking that you set up with 3 pages. Follow the direction sheet, and I'm going to walk through what's in each of those pages and in those directions. I'm going to be giving you 100% if you attempt each step of the directions. So just trying, you'll be successful on your first draft. You're going to have your textbook to help you with some of this. You're going to have that folder that I show you the tools inside there. And that folder included those videos for setting up the paper. Along with, there's a sample of this specific assignment already in there. I just ask that you use it as a guide instead of copying it. So in assignment, you're going to set up a paper using the APA guidelines, the Associative Psychological APA, I'm spacing out here. It's our American Psychological Association's guidelines. Sorry about that. And for their work, so for student papers, for research papers, they would set up using these guidelines. Double spaced, 1-inch margins. We use a specific font. It's 12 points, and you use proper spelling and grammar. Those videos can show you how to do each of those things if you're unsure of how to set up a paper with that. Oh, skipped over. Page 1 will be your title page. For our template, we're not including an abstract, but page 1 will be a title page, and it should include each of these things. Again, refer to the samples. They'll show you what they look like. So any of those things that you're not sure what a running head is, or what does it mean flush to the left or flush to the right, you'll have a sample that will help you visually sort that out. You also have the videos that will show you how to use your computer to set up and have a running head, have it page numbering. On the second page, you'll also keep the running head going. You'll have a heading and a page number, and we're going to have a practice paragraph. You're going to indent it, and you'll have sentences that are citations. Again, this isn't going to make sense as a research paper. It's just a template. And you'll have a sample of a direct quote. You'll have a sample of paraphrase from a web page. And you have a sample of paraphrased from a peer-reviewed journal. And I give you some links for that. And then your third page is your reference page. So again, you'll have a running head, a page number, you'll have the reference heading, and you'll list your references alphabetically. The first line of each will be flushed to the left, and then the remaining lines will be indented. That's called the hanging indentation, and we have samples of that out there. You're going to use the guidelines for APA for that book, website, and a journal. And they'll be the same book that you had from page 2, the same website and the same journal. because that's what happens with an APA paper, that you have give credit back in the body of your paper. Those are in-text citations. And then the reference is where they all match up. So if you ever want to follow up, if I'm reading a research paper and I want to follow up and find out where this source is that they were talking about in the body of their paper, I know I just go to the reference list and I can find all the information I need to look it up. All right, so that was a quick walkthrough. Hopefully is streamlining and simplifying what this assignment is. I'm going to pause there and check back with your questions. Are you ready to jump in with that assignment? Or are there any questions that didn't make sense of what we're asking for this one? You can go ahead and turn on your mics or type in any questions.
I do have a couple of questions.
Sure.
One, you said, not to copy the example page and just kind of use it as a guide. But you did say that there will be a place where we know what we're writing about.
Right. Let's go. I'll go ahead and take us back to our screen here, or my screen. So we're going to go back to Blackboard, and I'm going to pull up the directions. See if I can get these large enough. Okay. So I read what you'll have on page 1, and then page 2 is what you're going to be making the citations for. So I ask for you to include a direct quote from page 34 of any textbook that you have. Then I want you to paraphrase something from this website, and then I want you to paraphrase something from one of these journals. So those will be your choices from it. So then on page 3, your reference page, I'm going to want you to also have references, have on your list of references that book that you used, this website, and whichever one of these journals you chose.
Okay, and they don't have to tie in together, like they're obviously going to be different.
They're going to be different topics. You're going to just have a random quote from here, and then you're going to paraphrase something from here, and then you're going to paraphrase something from here. Yep, it's just for us practicing the formatting,
Okay.
not to make any sense of the content. Yep, good question.
Okay, so do we have to also include, we don't have to include a thesis, do we?
Nope, nope, you won't include an abstract or a thesis with that. You're just going to be setting up to practice following those guidelines from the APA manual. And then here are the things that I'm going to be looking for. So what will happen is when you turn it in, I'm going to give you feedback on each of these areas. And I'm going to tell you which parts you've got going on that are fine. You don't need to make any edits for. And I'm going to tell you which parts you need to still correct and make edits for. And then what you'll do is you'll take your first draft. You'll also consult with one of our tutoring services, and we'll talk about that as we get closer to then, of what your choices are for that. There's some online tutors. There's some, you can talk to them from our campus. There's some different ways that you can work either from home or going to get direct help. Either any one of those work, and you'll work with them to create a perfect final draft. But first draft, that's what we're working on right now, doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be an attempt. Other questions? That answer your questions there, Amanda? Did we?
Yes, you did. Thank you so much.
Okay, super, super. Anyone else for clarification or feeling like you're ready to jump in on this one? So just this, to pull it together, you're working on Module 3 for next week. So you have 2 weeks to be working on this project. This project's not due to September 15th. If you want to jump in on the online discussion board, there's also another online engagement activity that's out there that will close next week. Otherwise, that should pull it together for what I wanted to cover and just have a recording to walk through and maybe simplify this project that's coming up. Certainly can reach back out to me if there's anything that isn't clear from today's or this recording of what's needed, and I can pull in and work with you individually in my virtual office hours. We can pull up screens, look at the work that you're doing, or I can also field questions by email or phone. So hopefully this makes this feel less panicky. I know the words and sometimes just the idea of paper and APA makes everyone feel uncomfortable, but hopefully we're keeping it simple.
I do have one final question. Sorry,
Okay,
I tend to
sure.
overcomplicate things. In the blog instructions, so we're just creating a blog entry. Did you want us to just write that in the, like when we just create a blog post, or did you want us to have like a Word document attached?
Just put it in the blog post. We're just practicing we're just also using blog for the first time with this class. So, yep.
Okay, and then did you want us to cite for that too? That's probably in.
For us, what we're doing at this point would just be you'd be including the link to where it went. So a blog is a more informal writing. We want to give credit back, and we can do it by just showing folks, here's the link where I found this, and here's just a couple sentences that I'm thinking about why I added this. So you're set there.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording and